Hey Judy, what's wrong?
It's a cold day when Christmas songs are played everywhere in the city. I stopped to look at a tree ornament that caught my eye. My husband, whose white breaths are in the air, turns his head to look at a few steps ahead. He smiles softly, his ears red from. I adore the way he looks at me.
Nothing. Let's go home and have dinner. It's a hot stew for an especially cold day. I've already prepared it.
Sounds great.
Laughing, we hold hands and walk down the street. From somewhere, a familiar Christmas carol comes into my ears. I'm Judy. What I'm about to tell you is a really strange Christmas miracle that happened to me years ago, and the story leading up to it.
You're late.
Before I could say anything, I cringed at the anger hurled at me by my husband, Dan.
Where have you been?
Well, I just went to the closest deli.
It was the middle of December when, like it was about to snow, his cuss words chased me out to the without my coat just a short time as
Are you trying to fool me? I'm the breadwinner of this household. When I come home, I expect the proper to be ready and served. Can't you even manage such an easy,
he grimaced at me in front of the die.
no hot sauce? And how come you look blase about it? There's no way to eat chicken wings. Don't mess with me.
I was scolded so harshly that I ran out of the apartment with a wallet. I just came back with a hot sauce. As I gasped for my breath, he became irritated with me.
Deli, are you crazy? Isn't it cheaper to buy at the super?
He pointed at the hot sauce and rolled his eyes.
You have no sense of budgeting.
I couldn't resist retorting to that.
Of course, I buy groceries at the supermarket, but it's far away. I told you earlier. It slipped my it today. Anyway, you get upset if the food. That's why I went to the closest shop.
I forgot to add it to my shopping list and ran out. But I was sure the chicken wings were good even without it. I didn't understand why he was so angry. His anger didn't cool down at all.
God damn it! Where's your apology?
I did earlier, didn't I?
What's with your attitude? You are one ungrateful person.
My retort added oil to the fire. He continued throwing his temper at another hour.
Who wants such stale food now?
In the end, he flipped the plate with wings and went out to get dinner. A few days later, I went to clean my house that was up on sale. I stopped by an old lady who lived in the neighborhood.
Listen, Grandma. Your prediction was the first time I didn't predict anything.
The grandma who cared for me since little girl said I was going to. Faye laughed ambiguously.
No way. Everything you predicted, kid, came true. If they were not predictions, what would they be?
I gave a wry smile.
When you told me not to go to, there was a lightning strike and it burned down the mall. Another time, when I said I was going to relax at home all day, you advised me to go out because it was going to be sunny. I wasn't up for it, but you insisted, so I went out reluctantly and found out my house was robbed. If I were at home, I would have had to robbery for sure.
I still got the chill down my spine remembered about it. The robber was caught later on, with in his pocket. What if I was at home on that day? Other than these, her predictions, like she was a real prophet.
Hey, Grandma.
Yes? Even though she said it was all in just a coincidence. She listened to me when my voice became serious.
I don't think I would have been prepared for my mom's illness if you hadn't told me. Especially, she was my only family. My mom also said you gave her peace. You told her that I would be blessing her with something on one Christmas not far. She was relieved to know that I would have a bright future before she left me behind.
My mom told me about it in her house. It was a ray of hope for her and 6 content about it was a sign of her me.
That's why when Dan proposed to me on Christmas Day, I thought it was just as you predicted.
I met him through a mutual friend. He seemed to be a humble and gentle, but once we got married, he turned into an arrogant husband. Just like the hot sauce incident, he got upset with trivial matters. He put his hands over the food and was too cold to eat, or a salad was lukewarm for him. He was the one who played on his phone, ignoring the food for a long time. Not only about food, but he also critiqued the way I cleaned the apartment and clothes. Almost everything I did wasn't up to his liking, which made me feel trapped and suffocated.
I don't want to go back home to him.
I couldn't help but whine at Grandma felt a sting up in my nose.
Now it's almost sunset. Don't you have to go back and cook?
Looking up at the sky, she rushed me slow to move. Feeling softly rejected, I sat up late.
You're going to be okay as long as on your ground? Even though you'll have struggles, you're going to be happy one day. You'll have a Christmas that will make you jump up and down in joy. Just live, straight, and truthful watching.
I quickly turned around at the word soften my heavy heart.
Is it a prophecy?
Let's see. I'm just an old woman.
She gave me another ambiguous smile and baffled me. Switched my mood, thinking it might be too early to judge her original prejudice. But then dinner, massage, iron my. Dan's hostility toward me got worse and worse. It wasn't even a year since we got married, but it had become normal for him to disappear. Instead of a single kind word, she was constantly grumpy and overbearing.
Who do you think you are?
Why? What did I do?
He was upset with me again one night.
You don't have the decency to welcome me back home. Who do you think you are to hang around outside until now? I have to warm up my food in a microdon U.
His menace made me sigh.
I told you, right? I had a co-op meeting tonight. I left a note on the table for you.
Shut up. That's not an excuse for cooking.
What do you mean? I didn't cut core. I prepared the main and sides as usual.
If it's not freshly cooked, it's cutting corners.
His logic was messed up.
I should be prioritized above anything else. I've been feeding you. You are my wife. You must obey me.
That's crazy.
I was stunned by his incomprehensible behavior. He stood on his dignity and proclaimed,
You have no family or relatives. You live on your own. A scum like you should shut up and worship me. If you can't, I'll divorce you.
He smirked at me. It seemed to me that he was releasing his stress by making me obey him.
Anyway, give me a foot massage.
I tried my best to restrain myself from snapping back at him. He would just become angrier, Most of all, I had nowhere to go in the cold and sleet at night. So I sat down on the floor to give massage. My life continued as such until 1. I fainted from excruciating pain in the middle of grocery shopping and was taken to the hospital by ambulance. My mind went blank as my doctor condition.
This virus is transmitted by sexual intercourse. I had your husband get tested as well. Both of you have it. You didn't realize it as there was no symptom. As far as I could tell, you need to install a driver for your printer. I'm very sorry to say this, but the chances of conceiving in the future are extremely unlikely.
Regardless of his concern, he told and left. Dan followed the doctor in a hurry. I couldn't have a baby, as I repeated to myself what I'd been. My blank mind slowly filled up with ideas. I needed to find out more. I tried to follow my doctor and Dan wobbly legs.
Wait, doctor.
But I froze when I heard what they were talking about.
So, must everyone I've been with get tested?
Exactly. They must be treated differently or else they will come back to you.
Would they know what the test is for?
Of course.
I listened with despair to the conversation between Dan, who was persistent, and my doctor, who was getting annoyed with me.
The bottom line seems to be that Daddy has at least 3 girlfriends, and he's still with them.
I complained to a picture of my mom's empty room.
I had a hope, Even though he is not a good husband now, he might change once we have a baby. I kept the words of Grandma that to struggle. One would eventually be happy with a bit of lucky charm. I guess I'm wrong.
In fact, Dan seemed to only care about his own health. He was sensitive to his own condition and went to the hospital diligently. But he never showed any concerned comment for spelling and grammar mistakes. But he never showed any concern for, as I lost my parents, I had a strong for having my own.
Baby,
I hoped for a happy family with a husband, children, and me. My tears rained down hard on a picture of Mom in my hands.
Mom.
A sob escaped from the gap between the fingers that clamped over my mouth. Dan suddenly appeared then.
What are you wasting your time for? You haven't prepared dinner yet? Here are the divorce papers. This is your punishment for neglect. Master and making a fuss.
He noisily came into the room and threw papers down on my head as I was sitting.
You are irritatingly depressing. I'm ready to divorce you anytime. No, for me. You're the one who's going to be in trouble, aren't you? Instead of slacking, do your duty if you don't want a divorce.
I'm not slacking.
Oh, wait! There's one more punishment for you. I'm not giving you a living expenses allowance this month.
He looked happy, smirking, and came see me.
I'm giving you a chance to and change your attitude. Know your place. If you disobey me, divorce?
When he finished with all, he looked refreshed and left the room. I felt my feelings cool down at the Dan's signatures on the papers.
Mom, I decided.
Wiping my tears from the picture frame, I spoke to my smiling mother.
Watch over me.
Then I kept quiet and continued living in Dan for a while. He treated me like a servant as usual and took out his fits of anger on me. I argued back here and there, but most passed the days in silence. And one day,
I've told you already. I can't eat lukewarm salad and cold out of the question. How long does it take for you to get right?
as he began his tantrum, I sighed and decided to act on my plan.
If I don't obey you, we're getting it wrong.
Right. You remember that at least. If you don't want me to leave you, your stupidity.
He sneered and leaned back in a chair.
You're bit weak upstairs, aren't you?
What's up with that?
He fluttered his eyes in surprise at my reply.
What did you just say?
I looked at him, his expression of disbelief.
You repeat the same thing every teen know what vocabulary is? You only utter the word divorce over and over. Your lack of vocabulary is quite sad.
What the heck?
Let's get a divorce. It's totally me.
What the?
I smiled and said my farewell words, whose mouth was agape, and he even forgot to get angry at.
I've already moved all my necessary stuff out of here. If there's anything you don't need, throw it away. Goodbye.
I shuffled off the apron I had bought and folded it lightly. I placed it gently in front of him, the house keys on top of it. I looked at him one last time, then turned to face the house with my pre-packed suitcase.
What the heck is going on?
His voice chased after me as if he out of his confusion. I couldn't care less.
Yay, I'm free.
I pretended not to hear anything. With a refreshed feeling, I made my way lightly to my parents' house, where I decided to live again. 1 year since then. The divorce was already finalized, continued contacting me. You're sorry, aren't you? A wife should be a helpmate to her husband, not a hindrance. I had turned off notifications and the nonstop texts coming in, which I'd never experienced in my life. After much persistence, I finally arranged a face-to-face meeting with his parents at their house.
Why have you been ignoring me?
Dan, who seemed to behave in front parents, spoke to me in a sensible,
I've been texting you all this time, never replied once.
Oh, yeah. I turned off the notifications.
Why did you do that? It was too annoying.
Yes, you. So, what do you want to about...
You are a great editor.
His face slowly turned red with anger, and he answered him in a deliberately annoyed manner.
What's up with your attitude towards your parents? What the hell are you doing?
He finally shouted louder, but then remembered where he was. He apologized for his marriage. I thought to myself, wow, that's amazing. How to apologize? I tried my best to resist the urge fun of it and prompted onward.
What do you need to talk to your divorced about?
He cut to the chase, puzzled that my remained casual in the presence of parents.
Hold on. Why are you acting so strangely? Aren't you struggling after the divorce? Are you living now?
He made it sound like he was concerned about me. Yet, he never came to check on me, Eve. He knew where I was.
I don't mind getting back together what you want. Doesn't it make you happy?
I almost laughed so hard seeing his overconfidence.
It doesn't make me happy, and it doesn't in any way. I'm making enough income to support. Besides, your living expenses were only $500 per month. It wasn't even enough for what we needed. I mean, you're the one who's struggling to manage such an amount without me, right? The costs I was covering for you are no longer an issue. And I'm much more comfortable being upfront about it. I don't understand the point of getting together after being free.
I pretended to be baffled, to which clearly agitated.
What? You were supposed to be a housewife? I mean, the detail of our finances we're here to talk about.
Unsettled by the presence of his pair, mumbled,
Listen, Dan, stop acting like a little kid who doing mischief and calm down a bit. There's no point in trying to make them look good. They already know all your secrets.
What secrets?
I signed him to be quiet and reveal the answers.
You're mistaken about me. I wasn't housewife. I told you that I used to live abroad with my late father's work, right? I used the German I learned back then to translate at home. There were many materials on the board. Did you know that?
I didn't care for those.
Those were the materials and manuscripts before translation. You never touched those since you had no interest, right? Thanks to that, I was able to hide equipment to record you.
Wait.
He was stunned by the word a recording. It was his father who presented the real thing in front of him.
See, oh, your secrets, like how you treat me, are out now? Your parents were in tears watching apologize to me. They are ashamed to have raised such a son who has treated me so badly.
Being under the spotlight almost mac for the hills, but his mother grabbed him and made him sit down again. She signed with her eyes, and I pulled out the papers.
These are copies of our divorce pay.
There were parts marked with a red, which I pointed to Dan.
You know them, don't you?
No.
It was understandable for him to be shocked. What I pointed to him were the witness signatures. On it were written the names of some knew very well.
Actually, there wasn't enough space. You had more than 2 girlfriends, right?
Wait, what?
No more waiting.
Before I could continue, a resentful, the first to echo.
Dan, you never told us about Steve.
We only have a relationship with you. That means you brought it in from CLs, didn't you? What do you mean? What am I at fling? Didn't you say we 11 get married one? That essay statement only a bachelor say.
Oh no!
We watched the video too. You are a villain not only to us, but women. You are the one public enemy. You're finished.
Surrounded by his girlfriends, Dan to the floor. At such a son, his parents made exasperated sighs. I had a private detective look into girlfriends and secretly contacted. Of course, I had also told my ex-in-law's story too. The result was this chaos.
Your game is up now.
I
There was a strong request from his that their son needed punishment. All his girlfriends and I demanded compensation from him. He worked for a company owned by a member of his mother, so the payments were deducted from the payroll to prevent him from escaping. He was forcibly taken back to his pa home. Under their strict supervision, they face a long period of compensation payments. A year has passed since then.
Hey, Judy, what's wrong?
It's a cold day when Christmas songs played everywhere in the city. My husband, whose white breaths are in the air, turns his head to look a few steps ahead. He's smiling softly. His ears are red from the cold. The little girl in his arms also has cheeks. I adore them so much.
Grandma, prediction is actually
Murmured to myself. My current husband is, surprisingly, brother of one of Dan's girlfriends. I hit it up with the girlfriends aft and hung out sometimes. I met him by chance, and he gently depression. It's really a strange story. If it wasn't for what happened with Sure, I wouldn't even have met my husband. So that's what Grandma meant when I don't struggle. But I live and be happy. I'm once again amazed by Grandma's prediction. Moreover, after we got married, I got pregnant, which was said to be extremely unlikely. I remember when I got sick on Chris. I was rushed to the emergency room. Doctor indicated I was pregnant. I was literally jumping up and down, husband, and the nurse scolded us to be quiet. It was a true Christmas miracle. This time of year makes me think about life deeply. I've been hurt a lot by Dan, but now happy.
Mommy,
I come out of my thoughts when my daughter leaves my husband's arms and clings to me in her fuzzy coat.
let's go home and have dinner. It's a hot soup for an especially cold day. I have already prepared it.
Sounds great.
Laughing, we held hands and walked street.